everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with day 6 of my Christmas series for 2020. As you can see, we're going to make a SlimLine card, and I'm going to be featuring a stamp set by Brutus Monroe. This stamp set is called Gnome Place Like Home. I truly am falling in love with the gnomes, but the gnomes with the big nose, the big noses. I just think they are adorable. I love all of the images that are here, the sentiments. It's just great. When I saw this in my stash, I'm like, oh yeah, this has got to make it. Because it is just too cute. It truly is. So again, we're going to make a SlimLine card. Now, what I also pulled in is my Lawn Fawn Hillside Dies. And just from some scrap pieces of cardstock, I just made these hills because I knew I wanted them to be down on the bottom of this panel. Now, when I make a SlimLine card, my SlimLine cards are generally 3.5 by 8.5. Or I go 4 by 9. It all depends on how I want to cut my cardstock, to be very honest with you. This here was cut to be, or the card is going to be 3.5 by 8.5. I just find that easier to cut. The reason why is I can get 2 card bases from 1 sheet of cardstock. I can get the one for my SlimLine, and then the other one that's left, I can make a 4x4 card base. So that's why I usually do stick with that. So I've pulled out my Gina K ink in Ocean Mist, and I'm using one of my Tailored Expressions ink blending brushes there. And I am just adding a little bit of that color to the top. Now I know people are going to cringe. They're like, no, you're adding the black soot. I am. I just want to tone it down just a little bit. Again, it's personal preference, and I did use the oxide because the oxide is like a warm gray, a dark warm gray, but it does have that. So you can see I stamped my image there, and I'm attempting to put the mask on. Of course, I've already ripped the mask, and I haven't even put it on the cardstock, but that's okay. We can still make this work. So I have the mask down because what I want to do now is I want to do my background. I want to blend, because I want to have a night sky, if that makes sense. For this, I am using my oxides. I'm using Tumbled Glass, Faded Jeans, and I will be using chipped Sapphire. And yes, I'm sorry, black soot. There was another video that I did, and I used the black soot as well. And so many people said, you're dulling the background, and I know, I am. I am dulling it, but I truly do want it to be a dark night sky. And the way I interpret a dark night sky is with some of that gray going on in there to really make it dark. So it's all good. It's all okay. You can see I only put a little bit. Just a little bit. But I do like that warm shade to come through. So I'm going to now get I wanted to take that away because remember, oxides take a while to dry. They don't dry immediately. I am using my heat tool just to speed it up. I am beating my anti-static tool. It has clogged up. Every winter, this does clog up. It just means I got to clean it out again. I think I'm going to give up on that and go back to the pouch. I do like the pouch. I just got to find my pouch. Makes it sounds kind of vulgar there. Sorry about that. now I'm pulling in all of the beautiful snowflakes that came in the kit. Now I'm just gonna grab something real quick. So I'm just having fun stamping that all over. Now the embossing powder that I am using is by JudiKins, and it's called Frosted Twinkle. It's a really nice size jar. I think it's like a 2-ounce jar. But what I like about this is I was actually going to use my Ranger holographic. I think that's what it's called. Thing is, that's see-through, it's clear. So you get this beautiful glitter effect, but you see through it. When it comes to the JudiKins embossing powder, it's got a white base to it. So I still get those beautiful sparkles and crystals, but I've got white. And that's what I was looking for when it came to the snowflakes. So I used the Merry Gnome Mass sentiment, and I did push a little bit too hard. That's why it doesn't look as clear. But you know what? We keep on going with it. I used my Recollections Snow embossing powder, which is their version of white. They like to call it snow. And again, I'm just having fun. I'm just stamping all of the different snowflakes from the real tiny, tiny ones. They're like little tiny dots. So I'm just filling in this whole area. And again, I'm keeping my mask on. I have yet. I'm really surprised I kept that in place. I actually masked when I was supposed to mask. I actually did this in the right order. There is somebody out there, and you know who you are, who will be proud, I think. One layer cards, I struggle with those. It's like keeping it in order. It's absolutely hysterical. I sit here and I laugh about it. I would rather, you know, stamp the image on something else, color it. I really don't like fussy cutting. So, you know, die cutting it out and then placing it in there. So I did a 1-layer card. So I'm continuing to practice. Yeah. So I am heat setting all of these and and you can see just how the snowflakes go white after you heat set that, because again, it's got that white base. So now I am pulling off my mask, and I wasn't worried about down to a certain area. As always, I am keeping all the coloring in, so if you don't want to see this, you can skip towards the end so that you can see the final card. I do speed this up. For the coloring, I am using my Faber-Castell Polychromos, and what I started with is the hat, because that's really kind of the main part of the coloring for this is the hat, and you'll see why I'm focusing on that. Again, I use my color pencils kind of, sort of like alcohol markers. So, you know, when you watch people color with alcohol markers, sometimes, you know, they cover the whole image with their lightest color, and then they go back in with their dark, and then the medium, and then back into the light. It's kind of, for this type of image is what I'm going to do. So I always want to put down my base layer. Now, I'm not working on the cardstock that I normally use for my colored pencils. When I use this medium, I love to use Bristol. It doesn't have to be smooth. I use the Bristol Vellum. To me, it's the same thing. By Canson. I have the vellum. It works just fine. I don't see the difference. I also like to use watercolor paper, cold press, because again, it's got a tooth to it. My favorite is the Strathmore Mixed Media, and it comes in tone tan, blue, and gray. It really doesn't have a white or an ivory, and I just love those toned colors with colored pencils. So I'm using just a general cardstock here, so it's an extremely light hand at which I am applying the color. I want to make sure that I can continue to add my shading when it comes to the coloring. You can see I'm using 3 shades of red when it comes to this hat. And you can see I'm keeping that highlight towards the center. I'm keeping the highlight towards the center because I want this to have a round shape. The color that I'm using to add my deepest shades, my deepest cut lines to give it its dimension, is indigo blue. And again, you can do that. I do the same principle when other people that use their alcohol markers say, go to that darkest, that scary dark. We all know who has said that, and I hear her every time that I'm doing this, but it's true. You can go, when you're looking at applying those shadows, don't think you have to have the darkest of the reds. Go into a brown, go into a purple, go into a blue or a black. That will give you the lightest shades. Just remember, use a light hand and you'll be able to continue to build them up. These are the only Copics that I pretty much own. Now I do have other shades. I also have 3 shades of the grays, the C's, 3 shades of the W's, because they make sense to me. I can't figure out Copics, so I do not have a Copic collection. I just can't figure it out. I am awed that people can figure out the numbering system. I just can't do it. So I do have what's called the Flesh set, because it can help me with skin tones. This gives me a skin tone in no time. It's funny, colored pencils are my medium of choice. I do struggle with flesh tones in colored pencils. Doesn't mean I don't keep practicing. I do struggle with it. But when it comes to this, I'd like to use my Copics. And that's the only time I say Copics, is when it comes to these markers. I think it helps to make the colored pencil stand out. Now, you can see that for the beard, I did use warm shades of gray. All right, just to add the depth into that. Now, I did layer these up so that what I wanted to have is, of course, his face coming out of a snowdrift. That's what I was looking to do here. I think he's adorable. I'm loving that face. So to have him coming out of a hill of snow was just precious to me. So I'm going to mat this with a dark navy blue cardstock, and I've cut that down to be the 3.5 by 8.5, and that will be able to go onto my SlimLine card base. Now, yes, this will actually be a side folding card. When it comes to, if I am making a portrait card in SlimLine, they will be a side folding, even though I do gravitate to a top folding card for standard size. If it's a landscape card, it will be a top folding. So that's how I just roll with that. I grabbed one of my Nuvo glitter drops and I rubbed it in between my hands for a little bit just to warm it up so that it's not all glumpy. And the one that I chose is the White Blizzard, so I filled in the brim of his hat, and I'm just putting drops around in throughout my snowflakes to really put him into a blizzard. I think he would have been absolutely adorable to add white speckles and splatters all over. But then he really would have been in a blizzard. But I do love the effect of that. I think it adds so much, those white splatters going across. So I do hope you enjoyed day 6 of my Christmas series for 2020. Again, for today, I featured Brutus Monroe and one of their beautiful stamp sets. As always, all the products that I used will be listed down below as long as they're available. Remember, I do dig into my stash for my series every year, so you see both old and the new throughout my series. But all of them will be linked down below. If you have any questions, please make sure you leave those down below as well, and I will make sure I get back to you as soon as I can. Continue to enjoy, continue to smile, but most of all, remember what's most important for me. Always be creative. Till next time, guys. Take care.